What is good, everybody? Welcome into the Bluebloods official podcast of FCS Football Central on SI. Joined by a very, very special guest, my guy, head coach at Praire View A&M, Tremaine Jackson. Coach Jackson, appreciate you joining me, man. I know National Signing Day is on the horizon. You're getting rolling, got the staff finalized, so I appreciate you giving me some of your time.
Zach, man, no problem. Always glad to be here, man. Look forward to talking.
Absolutely. So we got to start here. I would say this: the Valdosta to FCS pipeline is strong. Chris Hatcher, Kerwin Bell, Coach Golf was just at McNeese. Now you're at PV. Talk a little bit about the pressure at Valdosta, man, because that's a place that championships have to be competed for, have to be won. What was your biggest learning experience or development as a head coach being at Valdosta State?
Yeah, man. Like you said, when you roll into town in Valdosta, it's called Title Town for a reason. The expectation is to win a title, conference championship and national championship, and those people make no qualms about that. What I learned, the biggest lesson I got was I was going into my third year as a head coach, really the second actually on the field because of the COVID year. And I thought because we had been good there that we were still good. I just needed to manage it. And when we got there, I realized very quickly that there had been no recruiting done behind that team. And, just the team was in disarray. And we had some good football players, but we didn't have enough to go and repeat what we had just done. And so I learned how to do things our way. And when you walk into a building and you're convicted on doing something a certain way, to stick with that plan instead of listening to people around that don't know anything about football or taking over programs. And so I learned a hard lesson in 2022. It was all my fault. And I always reference back to that because that's where I think I really turned the corner as being a head coach. I knew what I should have done, but I didn't do it. And, man, sticking with that gut instinct, it matters.
Talk a little bit about the call because I'll be honest, man. I cover the whole FCS. We do a little D2, man. I'm a football guy. I'll watch NAIA football if it's on TV. You were a guy who I thought should have had a chance to come up to the FCS level last year, man. I mentioned your name for a few jobs. Talk about what made PV the right job for you and just that process of taking this head coaching job this offseason.
Yeah, man, I didn't go to Valdosta State to get an FCS job. I went to Valdosta State because at that moment when I got that job, man, I wanted to build a dynasty. I even in my interview, I told Mr. Reinhardt I want to be the D2 Eddie Robinson of this thing, man. Like I felt like that was a place we could do that. As time turned and things changed in our game, you have to be willing to change. And when folks won't change, you either have to be willing to deal with it or you have to leave. And so I felt like I was pressed to leave, and I wasn't last year. I didn't feel like that a year ago. I felt like with the quarterback we had coming back, Sammy Edwards, that we had an opportunity to make a run. And when you go to the quarterfinal and you lose like we lost in 23, pouring down monsoon in Valdosta, Georgia, who would have ever thought that, right? Man, we wanted to try to run it back. And we knew we had a special nucleus of guys to do that. So, I had some opportunities to some people flirted around after the 23 season, but it wasn't right. It wasn't the right time. I wanted to, when I came to Valdosta, I told them I wanted to play for a national championship and ultimately win it. And so we wanted to run it back, and we were able to do that this past season. What made Praire View A&M the right job for me is the people. Man, I want to be around visionaries. I want to be around people that want to make the player experience the very best that there is, not just on whatever level we're on, but in the country, regardless. And that wasn't the case where I was. And so when that time was up there, this opportunity came, and I wasn't looking. My AD tells a story about how he was in a restaurant in Valdosta when they played FAMU 2 years ago, and he looked up and saw a picture of mine in that restaurant, and that's how he even knew. He Googled me and found out I was from Houston. That's how I even got on his radar. So I wasn't looking, man. We were getting ready for the playoffs. We were in the bye week, and the FCS season had just finished after going right into Thanksgiving. And man, I ended up getting a call and kind of said, "Hey, we're playing. I'm interested, but we're playing." And man, 2 weeks after that, I had accepted the job. And people, when people don't know what happened, they make things up. Because I'm like you, Zach. I'm interested in processes. I actually took the job before we played Virginia Union. And so it was kind of one of those things where I knew I was coming. I hadn't signed anything, but I knew. But I wanted to take care of the matter at hand. We were able to get over the quarterfinal hump, beat Mankato in the semis, and go play for a national championship. But the job was decided well before then.
So I know in the media it didn't break. Did you let your team know, or was it something that you just wanted to keep behind the scenes until the run was over?
Yeah, I kept it behind the scenes. I told the necessary administrators when that time came. But when I first decided that I was going to come to Praire View A&M, I didn't tell anybody because it wasn't the time to tell
Right.
anybody. It was the time to try to win a quarterfinal game, which we hadn't done in my tenure there. It was the time to try to get to McKinney, Texas. And so, the week that we went to McKinney, I let the administration know. I gave the administration the chance to stop it, and they didn't. And so I let the administration know that I'd be moving on, but that it was my full intention to win the national championship. And so they can get their ducks in a row. Because what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to set the program behind like it was set behind when I got the job.
Right.
And so I wanted to make sure everybody knew. I wasn't going to tell anybody at midnight. And so I wanted to make sure they knew. I didn't tell the team until after the game. And I had kind of decided in my mind that win, lose, or draw, that was probably the best time. I didn't go back with the team to Valdosta. And I wasn't going back win, lose, or draw, a job or no job, because I'm from Texas. And so
Right.
my family just came up, and I was going to go back to Houston with my family for the Christmas break. It just so happened I got this job. But that's how that happened, man. And when you're not in it and you don't know what's happening, football jobs are decided between Thanksgiving right before Christmas. And unfortunately, you're still playing on certain levels, right? And so, but when Prairie View A&M called, man, I couldn't. Once I talked to our AD, and then I talked to our president, and I saw the vision that they had for our place, not just being one of the best HBCUs, but one of a premier FCS program. It was a no-brainer with me being from 30 minutes down the road.
I don't think people understand how volatile this profession is in coaching. Because I mean, coach, you've seen assistants rise quick, but they can never break through and get that head coaching job. Looking back at your whole coaching career, back even playing career, when you look back, what was your big break? When did you know this is real? I can do this, and I can go be a head coach somewhere.
Man, going to the University of Sioux Falls, I went as a D-line coach, and I ended up becoming the coordinator. I was actually about to take an FCS linebacker job after 1 year there. And the head coach at the time came to me and said, "Hey, I want to make you the defensive coordinator, but you need to know something." The players came to me and they vouched for you. They want you to be the defensive coordinator. Man, at that moment, I realized that man, we had something special in the way that we coach. For players who I wasn't even their coach, to go to a head coach and go, "Hey, man, we want this guy to be the defensive coordinator." After having some struggle, it was big to me, and I felt like I owed them that to try to lead them to be better. Well, we ended up going 32-5, and I don't coach a position. I'm just a coordinator. I'm basically the head coach of the defense. And at that moment, I realized that, man, maybe this head coaching thing is in my future. I'm managing staff. I'm fundraising money. I walked into a bagel boy shop one time, bagel shop, and a guy was like, "Hey, I want to donate $20,000 to you because I saw the way you guys play defense." I was like, "Man, I got this fundraising thing down, right?" And so just little things kept happening. And then I kept being put in a position to lead men, to lead young people. And so I realized very early, I went to Texas State so I could check the FBS box. So an administrator couldn't say, he never coached the FBS or something like that. I went there strictly for that, because by that time, man, I knew I wanted to be a head football coach, and I knew I wanted to start in Division II and kind of work the path that I've been on since.
I love to hear that. And I mean, getting to PV, I'll say this as a guy who covers national FCS, arguably the best facilities in the country, and that includes some of the top programs where you would think they have flawless facilities. PV Stadium, the location, everything's there. You get to recruit Texas, and that's a state that everyone in the country wishes they had access to. Coach, talk a little bit about the process of building a championship culture at PV and just lay out the steps for me because you've been at Valdosta, you've been at Sioux Falls. For people who don't know, that's a program that expects to win national titles.
Mhm.
What does it take to build a championship culture at PV, in your opinion?
Well, it takes the right administration. You know, you talk to any head football coach that's won a championship, and they'll probably tell you that the administration was on board, via from the presidential level to the athletic director level on down. Man, it costs to win. You don't just walk in places and win. And we've been able to win without having a very lot, a lot of things. People don't know this. Valdosta State's not fully funded, so we play with 22 scholarships. Man, we've been able to win with a lot less than a lot of people. But when you have the right administration, like we have here at Praire View A&M, when you have the right AD who played football himself, and football is important, and he understands how it can help the university, help the other sports. I think you got to be you got to be interested, and that's the way it starts, right? And then when you get that, then it's easy for you to come in and lay the groundwork and the standard of working, the way you go to school, the way you sit in the class, all those little things that people don't see on Saturday, laying that foundation down. We call it the blueprint, and really implementing the blueprint. It makes it a lot easier when you're aligned at the top. And so when I got the job here, I talked about alignment a lot. Man, if you got great alignment with your administration, then you've got a chance to be successful. And it makes laying down the foundation to the players and coaches not easy, but easier as you go throughout trying to get a program ready to go to win.
I've talked to new head coaches about roster evaluation, and in this age of college football, roster evaluation 5 years ago is not what it is today because of the portal. And listen, we got guys out here with 7, 8 years of eligibility now, fourth, fifth school. Coach, were there any positions that you felt good in with the talent that was coming back? And on the flip side, were there any positions where you looked at your staff and was like, we got to figure something out here going into the year?
Yeah, there's four positions that we evaluate really thoroughly. While everybody was enjoying Christmas and opening gifts, I was watching film, man, and that's the O line, D line, quarterback, and cornerback. And for us, those four positions matter. And so we got to upgrade at all four of those positions. You never can have enough O and D linemen. You never can have enough man cover corners, regardless of if you're a zone team or not. And then you never can have enough quarterbacks that can lead your team too. And so we've really got to we've done a good job at some of those spots coming in at mid-year, and we've got to continue to evaluate and do a good job there. I will say that there was some talent on this roster uh, that stayed here. We got to find a way to make it work for us, because just because they were talented in the last system doesn't necessarily mean that talent is going to carry over in what we do. So we got to find a way to adjust either what we do to make that talent rise and get better, or we've got to meet it in the middle and get it better. And so um, we're excited about that process. That's happening now. But really, man, what we're doing is just teaching a way of working, because we won with less talent on the field. We've won with a level of togetherness and love for one another that people that have led. It's given us a level of enthusiasm to get us over the top. And so we're working on that right now. But we're excited about what was here and excited about what we're bringing.
You've built a really good staff, man, and especially shout out to my guy, Coach DG. I've known him since he was back at Texas Southern, man. That's my guy. One
Yeah.
of the best DB coaches in the country, man. He's developed some absolute dogs in the back end of the defense. So love him. But talk about building your staff, man. Every coach keeps a short list, obviously. But how did you balance bringing guys with you from Valdosta while going to get guys nationally across the country that fits what you wanted to build at PV?
Yeah, man, when you compete for a national championship, if guys can coach well enough to help you compete for a Division II national championship, they can coach. They can coach anywhere, in my opinion. And so I offered each one of those guys that were full time, I offered them a job, and everybody didn't come, but five of them did. Five of them did come with me, and so we were really excited about that. That just helps lay down the culture faster. When I'm not having to teach it to a whole new staff, and then they have to understand the nuances of it. So we brought five guys, predominantly on the defensive staff, and then we brought our special teams coordinator and then our O-line coach. And so we were really excited about that. From defensive GA on up to coordinator came, right. And So, but then we look to start being strategic with the way that we hire. We had a discipline problem here last year. It's no secret. You can look at the penalties and tell. So I needed some disciplinarians. I hired Cliff Fed, who had been a high school head coach in Griffin, Georgia, had been at Dutchtown. But I watched Coach Fed one week just coach and the discipline that he coached with. I'm like, man, I need that. We got to have that. So I hired him as the running back coach. Jacoby Walker played in Houston, went to Westfield, went to Arkansas out of high school, coached the receivers at Sam Houston, coming from being the OC at South Oak Cliff, who just played for a state championship. But we got to recruit Dallas. We got to recruit Dallas, and in the way you recruit Texas is with people that have the ends in those places. You know, God help the guy that comes into Texas and don't know nobody.
Yep.
He's not getting the right list. And so we started looking to bring guys that had either relationships here in the state, had played in the state, because I was in South Georgia and got a lot of respect for them, but it's nothing like Texas. This is football mecca, and so you gotta be on your P's and Q's here. And so we strategically hired staff based on location, based on geographical areas, or if they had a certain trait that we needed, i.e. a disciplined coach. Man, we got to have that, i.e. a real schematic guy. We got to have that. And it's come together, man, from support staff to guys on the field. I hired Darryl Colbert, who was our football operations. He was a high school coach here in Beaumont and in Houston. Darryl and I worked together. And so we've been able to get previous relationships with previous recruiting relationships with guys that have great traits and are great teachers. I'm really excited about our staff.
You made a splash immediately because there's been, listen, I've been covering the SWAC for a while now. My co-host coaches at Alcorn State. So I'm ready for you guys to meet and compete on the field. But there's been a big conversation about the SWAC competing nationally. The out-of-conference record hasn't been great across the conference. You came in and said, we're not looking just to be good in the SWAC. We're looking to compete nationally. And I love your motto that PV is the premier program in Texas, the FCS program in Texas, because that's what it should be.
Mhm.
Listen, I've been to all the other Texas schools. I've covered games there. They don't look like PV with the facilities and the resources. Like you see the incarnate words winning these games. If you look at their facilities, they shouldn't be better than PV.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about what it, like, in your opinion, what has to change? Why hasn't PV been at the top of FCS programs in Texas? Because in my opinion, they have all the resources and should be.
Yeah, I think we kind of got comfortable being just in the SWAC, winning the SWAC West, and which those things are awesome. Growing up in Houston, I knew Praire View A&M when they were 0-77. Growing up in Houston, I knew Prairie View A&M when they didn't have scholarships and things of that nature, and it was kind of like just a place to hang out. So when you see it from when you're a kid to now, man, you see a lot of different, Prairie View A&Ms. It's the same school, but you see the maturation of the football program. I was also on the other sideline in 2009 when they won the SWAC, and I saw that with my own two eyes, and I saw how that program was built. And they didn't have a stadium. They didn't have a weight room. And so they were able to find a way to get things done. And so what I wanted to do when I got the job is I wanted to find a way to be premier, to be excellent. Our president has a strategic plan called the Journey to Eminence. Eminence means superiority. Man, we want to be superior. And that's why I came. I could have stayed where I was and kept beating up on folks in the Gulf South Conference. I didn't have any desire to do that. We had a desire to come be the best that there is. And when you're in an FCS program like Praire View A&M, with the resources and the leadership that we have, the 70 plus, 80 plus thousand alumni base that we have that people can come join into, and the pageantry on a Saturday night in our stadium with a band like we got, ain't no reason why. I'm like you. I've been to all the FCS places in the state. It's nothing like it. It's nothing like it. And we got to stop being shy about that and saying we're being humble. I humbly tell you, there's nothing like Prairie View A&M in the FCS, and we've got to put a product on the field to make that true. And so we feel like with our past experiences, we can come in here and put a product on the field at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later, to make it all true, man, and to make our place the absolute best in the state in the FCS.
That's a fact. And also, too, just quietly kept, there's some programs that recently moved to FBS that I think PV might be ahead of, too. And, we could talk about that, later. But, Coach, talk a little bit about your philosophy as a head coach. Now, you're a defensive guy. How hands-on are you going to be with the defense, calling plays, coaching positions? Or are you more of a GM role as the head coach?
Yeah, man. GM is what I started calling myself. I don't call plays. I don't coach a position. My baby is the defensive line, and so I'd be lying to you if I told you I don't fix a stance or two every now and then on the D line. And so just because if I see something, I'm gonna say something. But man, I've when you hire well, you don't have to do that. I think coaches that call plays for one or two reasons, man, they either can't get away from the game or they don't think they have anybody on their staff competent enough to get it done. Either way is fine with me. I just feel like I can get away from the game and coach men. And then I've got really competent people and coaches that are better than me calling plays and coordinating both sides of the ball. And so all three phases. And so I don't, man. I kind of walk around, flip my whistle in the middle of the field. My fights are from Sunday to Friday. And they're up here on this second floor, man, and trying to make sure our men are trending in the right direction. They're getting the level of care that they need. If I'm in a position room, man, and a guy comes up and has a problem, now everything stops football-wise while I'm dealing with that guy's problem. Things got to go on. Nothing's bigger than the program. So I put myself in a position to mentor men, mentor young people during the week. Now, I still know ball. Sometimes you get in this head coaching role and the assistants kind of mess with you and go, man, what do you know? You ain't been in here in a long time. We can still draw them up and get it with the best of them. But, man, I really enjoy my role. This is why I wanted to be in the seat, and it's worked for us. And so if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And so I think I got really good coaches ultimately to allow me to be able to do the things that I need to do. Have conversations like this. They're in there installing right now. If I was a part of that, they'd have to wait on the install. And so, yeah, man, I really enjoy it. Got really good coaches. Now, no, I'm not going to have them very long because these guys are really good. But hopefully while we're together, we can keep winning.
That's the business, man. Everyone fans always hate losing good coaches, but if no one wants your coaches, there's odds are that you're probably not a very good team, is what I always say. Other teams only want good coaches, but coach, recruiting strategy, I mean, it seems like every day I get on social media and there's another lawsuit, another change, another rule, another approach. And so what's your recruiting strategy? Are we building from high school? Is it a certain percentage of transfer portal and high school? And then also you got the JUCO realm, big in state of Texas, also big across the South. How are you approaching building this roster out?
Yeah, man, I'm glad you asked me that because I want to be very, very clear about this, and hopefully this can get out and get around. We are a portal football team. We're going to get the very best kids, especially from the Houston area, out of the portal. That's going to happen. However, we will recruit high school student athletes because of where we are and because of the level of football that is played 10 miles from us, on a weekly basis. But here's the deal, and everybody needs to understand this. Like you talked about, things are different from 5 years ago. No more does Praire View A&M have to offer a high school kid and he dangled a carrot in front of our face and go take 5 visits and I'll let you know the Sunday before signing day. That's not true anymore. My grandma used to say it ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. We got it now. And so if Praire View A&M offers a high school kid a football scholarship and he don't take it, that's fine. We'll go get a 21-year-old. And so that's where we are. And some people don't like when we say this, but one thing about me, Zach, is I'll always be honest with people. You don't have the time to be wined and dined and recruited with Praire View A&M. You came, you saw what we have, you know what our program is. We don't wine and dine you for 48 hours on a visit. We bring you in on Friday, we show you around, we get you out on Saturday. That's just not us. And what happens is if we do that, then we have to try to unrecruit you when you get here. And that's why a lot of guys are getting in the portal, is because coaches wine and dine them, turn the hat backwards, get on the 360 and dance with them. And then when they get there, they want to coach them. And they go, well, who is this guy? And so we try to show you who we are on the front end. But if you can't come here and find out that Praire View is elite, is premier, then you don't deserve to play at Prairie View A&M. You won't run out this tunnel. And so we're going to start with the portal and get our needs, but we're going to also recruit high school and junior college guys to fill the depth, and hopefully they can develop and come and help us either immediately or later on. The problem with immediately is if you develop them, then I got somebody in the inbox telling them to go on up. When I was at the last place, we lost guys to in-state FBS schools. That we lost our third best receiver to a Sunbelt school, and he went there and was their best receiver. And so we think but the kid didn't have any offers out of high school. And so it's like, man, we think we know what we're looking for. We think we can develop people. And so we don't waste time. And all we ask is that when we offer you a scholarship, do your due diligence, but don't waste time, because we will not wait on you.
Man, I love that. And I love that you talked about the D recruitment. And I think my first experience with that, I talked to Rodney Gardner, one of the other best D-line coaches in the country. And he talked about, man, that was the biggest problem in recruiting. He was like, all these people would sell these promises and you'd be on the video game with the kid and everything. And then he was like, when you yell at them in practice, they don't like that very much. who's yelling at me now? Yeah, and so I love you talked about that. Just more of a college football question here, Coach. You're a D lineman. I played O line, so all about the trenches here. Everyone talks about they've seen the play of the trenches, especially at the FCS level, decrease nationally. Now, there's a few programs. You got your North Dakota States turning out guys going to the league, all that, but nationally, it hasn't been great. What's been the biggest change in your opinion from the time that you were playing in the early 2000s to now? Have you seen that trend, and if so, what's your hypothesis behind this?
Well, the reason why the O-line and D-line play have changed in the FCS is because if a kid is all conference, he's going up. He's going up, and they want him for depth. Where that guy used to stay and try to get drafted from the FCS, he'll go and play at a place that's just trying to win 6 games and go to the Hawaii Bowl. Nobody thinks about winning national championships on this level at a high quantity anymore. It's you got your North Dakota States, your South Dakota States, where that's important, right? And a lot of levels, man, it's not important. A lot of schools in the FCS, obviously, I tell people all the time, there's only so many schools in the country that can actually win a national championship. Yep. There's everybody who breaks down on that in August is lying. So it's only about 15 to 20 schools that can actually do that. Praire View A&M has a chance to win too. We can go over to the FCS playoffs and compete if we do well, or we can win the SWAC and go play for the Celebration Bowl in the national championship, right? So we have a unique opportunity. But most people that say they want to win it, they don't have a chance to win it ever, because there's only a few schools that can do that. And I learned that at the last place. I was just at one of those schools that's going to always be there. And so when you talk about that and you talk about kids that are winning 7-8 games a year, not making the playoffs, and they put their name in the portal, but they're a 6'5", 6'6" tackle, now that's attractive to the powers that be, whether it be a Power 4, whether it be a high G5 school, they would take a 6'5", 6'6" college experienced tackle from us before going to get a high school kid to develop, but use them both as depth. And I think we got to stop being quiet in the FCS as head coaches and telling our kids that that's fine if you go there, but you're the starter here. Why would you go there and be a backup? The amount of kids that we talk to now that have left the SWAC, left the Southland, left other conferences to go to real average G5 schools. Yep. G5 schools that play their bowl game before Christmas. To go be a backup. It just makes no sense. And you did it for a few dollars and a couple of sweatsuits. It makes no sense. Where we gotta start educating kids on staying, playing, and if you're that good, get your money from the NFL. Get your sweatsuits from the NFL because that's what used to happen when I played. Man, I played against Robert Mathis. Man, Robert Mathis. Nobody on the team I was on could block Robert Mathis, or nobody in the stands could either. And so he was elite. And so, man, we got to get back to that. But I think we're not boisterous enough with what we tell people. We don't sound out for fear that we might hurt our own careers. Man, I'm not interested in winning 7 games and playing in the hula hoop bowl. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in competing for a national championship, and you can do that here at Praire View A&M. So if we lose a kid or a kid wants to go up, I'm really gonna have a sit down with that kid about where. Man, honestly, and Zach, you know this, there's the Power 4 and there's everybody else.
Yep.
So the group of 5, you're no different than FCS, especially with this house settlement and what might be coming. We're all on either you're opting in or you're opting out. That's what it is. And so we got to start being loud about that, man. Got a lot of respect for those coaches, but, man, it's different. We got to bring things back to winning and being the best in the country. And I think if we can do that, then and educate our kids and their families, we can get back to how it used to be.
I'm so glad you said that because for me, covering national FCS, how many times I've seen an All-American go sit at, I don't want to, just Colorado State or something, and he's a backup at Colorado State when he was an All-American at whatever FCS school. Because, like you said, 55% of FCS to FBS transfers last year played less than 300 snaps.
Wow.
Less than 50% of all conference players. I think it was 48% of all conference players that transferred up played less than 300 snaps.
Wow. Crazy.
Insane numbers, Coach. And so I'm with you on that. And then real quick, before we get to the last 2 questions about PV, like you said, you coached at Valdosta. That's a program that every year knows they can win a national title. There's been this big conversation about what separates the true national title contenders from the rest of the country. In your opinion, what are the biggest separating factors between a program that goes and competes for natties and a program that's just happy with 7-8 wins?
Yeah, man. The expectation is what separates it. But here's what I'll tell you about where I was. The AD, Herb Reinhardt, might be one of the best evaluators of talent I've ever been around. You start thinking about, man, this dude hired Hal Mummy. Before there was an air raid and any of that, he brought that to Valdosta at a time that wasn't popular. Everybody was still in 2 backs, right? And so then you look at the lineage of coaches that he hired, and I'm just blessed to be the last one that he hired, right? And everybody either competed or played for a national championship or won one since 2000. Yeah. Like, look at all the coaches. I think there's 5 of us. 3 of us with National Coach of the Year. Man, it's an expectation, though. And all he ever used to tell me was, Tremaine, there's only so many people that have the location and the expectation that we have here. And I was like, man, that makes a lot of sense. But you as a coach, when you walk into a place with high expectations, you instantly raise the expectation even more if you're a competitor. Or either you sink to just being okay, right? And so, man, having people that have a high expectation, being in a great location, I think that separates people that actually can play for a national championship and people that actually can. And I'm lucky to have been a part of that experience, and I'm blessed to be able to bring what we learned there here, because I think Praire View A&M is one of those places. And people look at me like I'm crazy, but I'm telling you, man, we're gonna put a product out there to make Praire View A&M a consistent winner on the national level. And I can't wait to have this conversation with you years from now, so we can play the tape back and be talking about some of the same things.
Absolutely. And like you said, I think everybody, but I want to say Coach Golf was a winner at the FCS level, because David Dean went to, what was it, West Georgia, and was a winner at West Georgia right before they moved up.
West Georgia is D2.
Yeah.
They were D2 when he was
they were
there.
D2 at his time. I mean, he went to West Georgia and won. Hatcher is Sanford when you think of Sanford.
Yep.
And what they've done. Kerwin's done a heck of a job up at West Carolina, where no one has been able to win until him. And then obviously you go into PVs, like you said. Yeah, that does separate it. Talk about game 1, man. PV's in a very weird spot. I mean, let's be honest, there's not many programs that open up the season with the biggest rivalry. That's also a conference game. That's also a divisional game.
Yeah.
And an 0-1 start can set your season way back in the SWAC West if you lose this game. Talk about the emotions, man. Playing against a team where you coached, you played, Coach Dishman pretty well. Like, talk a little bit about just the emotions of that week 1 game and how big that game is going to be for you.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, the things that you just mentioned, conference game, divisional game, starting on our first game here on my birthday at a place that I played, at a place that I coached, and at a place that I've got a lot of respect for their coach. And man, it's huge. But I knew when I took the job, I knew who was first on the schedule. I've been a part of that game in multiple facets, player, coach, and just even being a fan and watching it. I think what's huge for us, man, is the opportunity to start off in the right manner. You can't be a premier program and not win game 1. Just can't. And I think we have a unique opportunity to prepare our guys the right way in camp to really put a great product out there that's really going to set our time here in either in one or two directions. People going to go, oh, he got up there and said all that and they weren't successful, or people are going to continually gain interest and come support our program even more. So it's huge, man. It's huge to have a rival game. We play for a trophy. The standard at Praire View A&M is when you play for a trophy, we want the trophy. And so I guess, and I believe they do too. And so it's unique. Can't wait for it. Glad it ain't tomorrow because we need all the time that we can get to get ourselves ready to go. But it will be a fun night. We get a chance to go to Houston and come off this hill, man. And when we come off this hill, I'm telling you, we're going to be ready to go. And we make no qualms about that. I've said that time and time again. We're going to be a really prepared football team. We're going to be violent, man. It's going to be football is a violent game played by violent people violently. And so we're going to be ready to answer that bell. But it should be a great night. Hope everybody get their tickets. Zach, hope you can make it down. It should
For
be
sure.
a really good deal, man. And hopefully I can get a birthday cigar afterwards with some of my folks in Houston celebrating the victory.
I love it, man. And I mean, you probably got 2 of the weirdest games to start the season, right? Because you got that big rivalry, the emotion's going to be high, and then you get to play UTRGV, where it's going to be their second game ever, and it's like, well, what do you even expect from a team that you've never seen? Like, there's no watching film. You get 1 game of film, that's it. You don't know nothing else about that team. So you guys got some very interesting games to start the season. Last question, Coach, just your message to the PV faithful out there, man. I'll say this: I've been around the SWAC for multiple years now, covering it. I don't know if there's been more hype around a hire than this one, man. Just, I mean, every single platform I see you on, everyone's talking about, man, I've heard a lot of talk. PV is going to win it all this year. You guys are becoming like the favorite in the West just because of your presence in the program. What's your message to the fans, media around PV, man, about what they can expect, not just from you, but this team this year?
Yeah, man, I'm really excited to continue to get the fans moving in the right direction. We challenge the fans. Let's not talk about a stadium that ain't full. Let's not talk about how great of a facility we got and you're not inside of the game. And so the fans got an obligation to do what fans do, which is support. Financially, support with their time, support with their loudness on third down. I don't know whether we can have cowbells or noisemakers, but whatever we can have, the fans have an obligation to be there and use that. But also, man, the fans have a right to have an expectation to have a winner. And man, we're gonna win. And so I don't know how else to put it. I promise you, I'm not being cocky, Zach. I just know what winning feels like, and winning has a sound and a rhythm. And we're not marching to the beat of that drum right now, but we will be. And so we're really excited about being here with the alignment that we have from top down. We're going to be a consistent winner. We're going to consistently compete for championships here at Praire View A&M. And hopefully if they found anything out about me, if you Google me, like my man in Indiana said, if you Google me, we won. We've won everywhere. And we've told people exactly how it was going to go. And I know in the land of politicians and things of that nature, people don't believe people when they say stuff. Man, we're going to win. We're going to win the SWAC West. We're going to win the SWAC championship. We're going to take I-10 to I-20 because it's the short way. We're going to go to Atlanta, and we're going to walk out of there the Celebration Bowl champs. I'm going to stay an extra night, Zach. Hopefully I see you there because we're going to party all night long. And that's just what time it is. And so we need people to get behind that and come on, join us on the hill, man. Come inside the game. And most of all, support these players because they've been working extremely hard to get to this point.
Man, Coach, there's no better way to end that off. I feel like I'm ready to suit up right now. If y'all need any offensive guards, man, let me know.
We might. We just might, man.
Give me, like what Cam Newton said on his podcast, give me like a month to get in shape, man. I got you. But Coach, I appreciate you so much, man. Like I told you, man, I'm so excited. For me, covering nationally, man, I love winners. I like guys who talk like they're winners. Yeah. And it's really refreshing, man, to talk to a coach that is just honest, man, because you get a lot of coach speak nowadays. And I like a guy who was like, man, listen, we're going to be good. We're going to win. And I want you to meet us there when we win. And so I love the energy. Coach, appreciate you. We'll get you back on the show after the season. I'll definitely catch up with you at SWAC Media Day in Birmingham, man. Looking forward to finally meeting you in person. But guys, make sure to follow Coach Tremaine Jackson on all social media. Make sure to follow the official PV football account. Not going to want to miss anything there. But for myself, Coach Jackson, FCS Football Central on SI, and the Bluebloods, we are out for right now.